This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 347 of the Stable Scoop Radio Show, Freedom Horses and Manure Management. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible. Our sponsors this week are Buy Meat Dewormers, Uncle Jimmy's Brand Products, Mill Creek Spreaders, and Flirting with the World.
This week, Helene and I answer listener emails. Betsy Bixby shares the story of Freedom Horses out of Texas. Tracy Noel of Mill Creek Spreaders talks pasture management. And we have Wormers 101 Part 3 from Buy Meat Dewormers.
Welcome to the Stable Scoop, with weekly shows delivered right to you. With Helena and Glenn the Geek, live from the stable, it's every week. They bring you the news through hail or high water, while using their tails as their own fly swatters. So sit on down and laugh till you poop, cause it's time again for Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop. The Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop.
This is Glenn the Geek.
And this is Helena B., and you're listening to the Stable Scoop Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network.
Well, howdy, Helena.
Howdy, Glenn. Is it summer in Florida?
Yeah, before the show today, I was out by the pool, and the water's warming up. Pretty soon we'll be able to get in the pool.
Oh.
I had my little chair out there. I had my drink, and I was taking a little break before I recorded 4 shows this afternoon. So I was sucking up some sunshine. It was nice.
You know what I'm sucking up?
What?
A whole lot of nothing.
How about
Hot
you have the
tea.
snow melted all together now?
The snow is finally gone.
Yay!
Yes, the last of it went on Tuesday.
Yay!
Wednesday.
So you can see the grass.
But it's 37 degrees and raining today.
Oh. So
Yeah,
you're not
so
mowing the
there's no
lawn
yay.
yet, huh?
There's no yay. You know, it's funny too, because this afternoon I have to travel quite a distance to coach my daughter's lacrosse game. And that means, you know, I had to get my barn done earlier than usual this time of year. And I was like, should I leave the doors open or closed? So if I leave my barn doors open, of course, the horses go in there and they always pee and poop inside their stalls. They have an entire field and barnyard, right, to go to the bathroom in. But they have to go in their stalls to do it. So I said, too bad, kiddos. I'm locking you out.
Now, wouldn't you rather have them do it inside so it's all in one spot? It's easier?
No, because then I use more shavings that way.
Yeah.
So, but they both still have their thick, woolly winter coats. That was the point I was getting to is it's not raining now, but, you know, here I am worried about them being chilly. They're 2 horses, you know, with plenty of extra padding around the middle. They're full winter coats, and I'm worried about them being a little chilly while I go away for 2 hours.
Yeah, they just came off the worst winter ever, and you're worried about 40 degrees. And
I'm freezing. So we have a great show today.
Yeah,
We've got some interesting guests, huh?
Yeah, but let's start with a listener question. How about we do that real quick?
I love those.
Okay, this is from Lynn, and I think she's in Michigan. She says, since you were out of town at Road to the Horse, and I've had 2 vacations in 3 weeks, she actually came down and we saw her she was here at Live Oak International, the driving competition. She's been a listener of ours for years. And she said, what do you do about farm sitters? How are they paid? By the day, by the head? Do they stay on site or just come in to feed? What's the going rate? How about scooping poop? It is pretty depressing to come home to weeks worth of poop, especially in the winter. I had a pretty good support system, but it's starting to unravel and I need reinforcements. I'm not sure what you or your listeners do. Boy, this is the hardest thing. This is a hard one to answer, Lynn, because it's the hardest thing we all deal with, isn't it? When we want to go away, it's almost harder than finding somebody to watch your kids.
It's definitely harder.
I mean, you know, we're lucky here at the farm because we have our landlord lives on the property and he takes care of the animals. And when we go away, he even takes It's almost harder to find somebody to watch our dog than it is the horses. So our dog actually goes to his house and lives there because he loves the dog and the dog loves him. So they hang out together while we're away, and the dog doesn't go through any withdrawal because she's just having a great time. She's allowed to sleep on the furniture at his house, see?
Ooh.
Not allowed at our house. So she loves it up there. She gets to hang out on the couch and look like a queen for a week. And now
She plays that role very well.
yes, and he takes care of the horses, and my brother lives a mile away, and they have horses, so they're horse people. So we trade that way. So we're pretty lucky here in that we have a support system close by. But boy, isn't this a tough one?
Yeah. There's just.
What do you do? What do you do when you have to go away and the horses need horsing?
Well, I'm sitting here shaking my head because just when I think I have a plan, the next time I'm going away, my plan goes up in smoke. Well, the first thing that I do is make sure that the way my horses are set up is really easy for someone else to come in and take care of them. Now, not everybody has that option. So, for example, I have a barnyard with in and outs. So really all somebody has to do when they come here is throw some hay, drop some grain. You kind of make their routine as simple and straightforward as possible. So you put the word out. Usually for small animals, I used to always go through my vet because there's always a tech there who's looking to make a couple extra bucks, college student, recent grad, whatever. And they'll come by and, they're reliable. They're accountable because you can find them, but like farm sitting, when you go away and have someone come stay at the house, you really just have to rely on a network of friends and other knowledgeable. Like being involved in a barn is a good thing, because then, like, let's say you have your horses at home, but you're somehow connected either through lessons or you truck up to use an indoor. Then you kind of get involved with that community there. And there's always somebody who's
we've had this conversation how many times over the last 6 years is, to keep your horses at home versus boarding. And boy, one of the super nice things about boarding is you go away, you don't have to worry about it. That is definitely the top of the plus column.
And it depends on how long you're going away, too. If you're going away for
week,
7 days, a week,
yeah.
Some places, if they have a stall, they'll let you drop your horse off.
That is true. You can do shorter term boarding, depending on horses you have too, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have one or two, like if you just have one or two, again, it depends on if they have a stall available. But I think it's important to stay connected to some barns in your community just so that you have that network.
Now, we always had working students when we had our big farm, so the working students would actually live there and stay there to take care of the farm and the horses. And they liked that because usually they were older teenagers who got to be away from home and on their own in our house. So they always liked that. So we would lock up the alcohol and go away for a week. I'm not sure that stopped them, but the horses were usually alive when we got home. So
yeah, I used to do it. It was great, extra cash for me, and I loved getting out of the house and staying somewhere on my own. You can watch whatever TV you want, read books, Now
you live in an area like ours where it's very horsey. There are professional farm sitters, and one of the advantages to looking up a professional farm sitter is they're insured. They have insurance so that, and also my sister-in-law is a professional pet sitter. So that's all she does. She drives from one house to another all day long, taking care of dogs and cats and birds and fish and everything else. And she goes to people's homes and does that all day long. And the nice thing about hiring her is she's fully insured and she's registered. She actually has the certificate from the farm sitter or the Pet Sitters Association or whatever it is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you can look for that, too, in your local area. There are professional farm sitters as well that will come out and actually live at your farm. But I can't
there's
imagine
a place
that's
around
cheap.
here which has a super cute name. It's called Barn Tenders. I love that.
Oh, really? That's cute.
Barn Tenders. Yeah, I haven't used them yet, but give it time and I'll get there.
I mean, I imagine that's not cheap, but it's probably very reliable.
You know what? They would make a great guest. Why don't I get in touch with them and see if they're
let's do that.
coming on the show?
I don't think we've ever done that, so that'd be great. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Well, it depends on like you said, if you have maybe high maintenance horses or horses with special needs or performance horses that are in work and you have to follow a very specific regimen while you're away, then it's worth it to pay the extra money to have someone who can come in and follow your instructions to the T.
Yeah, and you want I mean, obviously you want
get what you pay for.
Yeah, the hard part is too. You want somebody that if a horse is injured in some form, has a hole here or there, they're actually going to notice it.
Yeah.
And that's a non-horse person may not notice it. And that's something that you have to take into consideration too. But I think, Lynn, you asked the impossible question. It's so hard, and it's something that every horse person battles with. But I think it'd be great if we can get somebody on from one of the professional organizations. We can find out a little bit more about how that works. If you have a question for Helena and I that we could non-answer like we did Lynn's, just drop us an email at glenn@horseradionetwork.com or helena@horseradionetwork.com. Well, coming up next, we're going to hear from Uncle Jimmy's brand products, and then we have Betsy Bixby from Freedom Horses, and she's with freedomhorses.org out of the Texas area. We're going to find out what that organization is.
Uncle Jimmy's Hanging Balls and Licky Things help combat stall boredom by providing your horse entertainment in the stall, while at the same time providing them with much-needed minerals and nutrients not found in other treats. Uncle Jimmy's has training treats covered, too, with Uncle Jimmy's Squeezy Buns. Every deliciously soft, squishy treat is individually wrapped for freshness, so your pockets won't get gummed up. Ask for Uncle Jimmy's Hanging Balls, Licky Things, and Squeezy Buns at your local tack and feed supplier, or you can go online to uncle-jimmys.com.
I have a backup going too, so. So if it's a problem,
technology is wonderful when it works.
Yeah.
No, it's me. It was all me. I am recording.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Well, hi, Betsy. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Glenn. I'm glad to be with you.
Well, we are having you on. You're from an organization called Freedom Horses, and you're out of Texas. And I know somebody that's very familiar to the Horse Radio Network was involved. I don't know if she still is, but was involved in the beginning, Tammy Serrance. And
yes, and she is still involved.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, tell us what Freedom Horses is for those that haven't heard of it.
Glenn, yes, Freedom Horses links survivors of abuse with volunteer horse owners. And we're currently in 5 states, and we have a vision to get to all the states eventually, and hopefully even internationally. And the thing that makes Freedom Horses, I think, very unique is there's never a fee paid by the client. So it's all done from the heart of the horse owner with safe horses and giving them just an experience. It's not counseling. It's not therapy. It is, but it works, giving them confidence and courage and getting back into the workplace if they need to get a leg up. So you know how wonderful horses are. You guys are in the horse business.
So it's not a therapy organization like some that we've talked to in the past. You're actually... do you have a network of barns that I'm not quite sure how it works. I'm a little confused.
Yeah. Yep. That's okay. And yes, the vision of this was to give the woman a place to go relax, have success, and enjoy the horse without going through lots of questions and the typical therapy stuff and,
Gotcha.
All the things that go with it. Yeah. So, yes, we have individual horse owners and we have barns where the person that wants to do a little give back, and a lot of our volunteers are former survivors themselves, and so they just spend 60 to 90 minutes with women. And those women, Glenn, are we find them through the local organizations, and our women are typically beyond the crisis stage. In other words, what happens a lot, and you probably see this with veterans with PTSD. There's things that surface later. And so our volunteers are not involved with active abuse situations. In other words, these are people that may be years beyond abuse, but it's impacted their ability to function well in the marketplace. I mean, people lose confidence and they lose self-esteem and they're not taking care of themselves and sometimes not even working. So we started out with a group called Freedom House, which is where the Freedom Horses came from. And one of our rules is that the client has to be actually involved in some sort of other traditional therapy program. But what we do is just offer a place for the ladies to go and have success. And
So
it's
how do
been
you
amazing.
how would you define the I don't want to say the ideal person who would benefit from this program? Let's say I'm not involved with Freedom House, but this program would be ideal for me. How do you reach out to other women, or how can women identify themselves as being in need of this kind of thing?
On our website at freedomhorses.org, if they are needing assistance, we try and link them with a local organization. So we work with agencies throughout the states where we are that are offering traditional kinds of counseling services. And then normally what's happened with Freedom Horses is that our link has usually been to people who want to volunteer, who have a safe horse and say, gosh, I'd love to give back in this way. And so then we get them together with a local agency, and the National Abuse Hotline has a list of agencies and resources as well. And so, and we're very blessed that we have a board member who's active nationally. And so if someone is in, Nashville, Tennessee, for instance, and wants to be a volunteer, owns a horse, would love to do that kind of volunteer work, then we will find out where they are in Nashville, what is an agency that's very close by to where they are, and then that agency will actually recommend the women to be involved in that program. And we have some sites where they only work with one woman at a time, and we have other people like Glenn, like Tammy, that was working with 5 or 6 women at a time because she had extra horses and she had people that were helping her to keep everybody safe, and just did an amazing job. In fact, some of Tammy's original group are now giving back here locally, and we have an AXA ride coming up, a competitive trail challenge, and some of our graduates actually come back and serve as judges and volunteers to help for that. So it's
really cool.
a full circle.
What a great community.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it had gotten this big since we talked to you last. I think you maybe had one. So
exactly. Yep. Tammy was a beta site. When we had this vision, and because of Tammy's background and her heart for the cause, she just said, I want to be the first site. And so we kind of cut our teeth with her and figured out what to do and what not to do, and figured out our guidelines and what was working and what wasn't, and then was able to put together that prototype. And then, again, the people just kind of raise their hands as volunteers, and then we get them together with the local agency, and sometimes we have to do a little sales job on the local agency. But now I think people are seeing horse therapy in various roles, especially with veterans and with other therapy programs and autistic kids and all of that. So it's been easier for us now with these agencies to say, look, there's something about a horse that is wonderful that just works,
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't even know that they're providing counseling and therapy for you. We're just out there brushing and currying, and yet we come inside afterwards and we're like, something just feels better about life right now. So
exactly. That's it, Elaine. You totally get it, because that's what I tell my volunteers. You don't have to do anything. The horses are really doing what they need to do. All you're doing is creating an environment where ladies can have success. And a lot of times they have lost that confidence in themselves to even have a success. So we've set up trail obstacles, and, depending upon the horse owner and what they want to do, sometimes just a trail ride, just to get out and relax in the sunshine. And we have them not bring their children, right? So if they have kids, it's time away from the kids. And you just get to go and breathe and relax and enjoy a horse. And it's amazing what that does.
Now,
we've had victims, we've had long-time abuse victims. It's just been amazing.
Now, you have, I was just going to ask you how you're funded, but I know, I assume most of it's through donations and fundraisers, right?
It's completely through donations and fundraisers, right? And we have a very, very low expense structure. We, even at this point, one of the things we would like to do is to have a full-time executive director. We're all just volunteers. We all have other jobs, just like Tammy. And so our vision, Glenn, and one of the things we really want to do to get this going even further is eventually we'd love to hire an executive director and have, actually somebody do this on a regular basis and get it through all the states. So we've done everything that we've done has been on a shoestring, and just personal donations from the volunteers. So, but again, the ladies are never charged. So.
Well, it's amazing it's grown this far with just volunteers. I mean, that's hard to do in the first place. So congratulations for getting that accomplished. You're having a couple of benefit trail rides coming up, right?
We are. We have a competitive trail challenge on the 18th and 19th, two of them. They're one day each, but it's a weekend of fun. And that's in Bluffdale, Texas, which is between Granbury and Stephenville. And then we'll actually be at Tammy's Ranch the first weekend in May and doing some arena obstacle challenges. And it was funny, I was talking to her the other day, and she said that all the road to the horse obstacles were sitting in a trailer at her place, and she said,
oh, no.
I wonder if they could just forget them for a couple of weeks more, and we could play with them in our obstacle challenge, but I don't think that's going to happen.
That would be good, though. You would have outhouses, and you would have all kinds of stuff to play with.
Oh, my gosh, yes. Yeah.
Well, this is great. Congratulations on bringing it to the point where it is, and really wanting to continue with its growth. The website is freedomhorses.org. What states are you in currently?
We are currently in Texas, in Tennessee, in Oklahoma, Iowa, and one other that I should know off the top of my head and don't. I'm assuming
it's one of those states right down next to all of those. So you're working your way from Texas out?
Yes, we are working our way from Texas out. But interesting with Tennessee, I mean, that was just a volunteer that heard about the program and said, oh, my gosh, this is wonderful. And she's actually connected with the YWCA in the Nashville area, so that was a perfect fit. Yep.
Well, if somebody's listening to this and they want to get involved from that end, from the end of the farm that wants to help out, they just contact you guys through the website?
Yes, that would be perfect. And I'm happy to give my cell phone number too, which is 817-680-1284. And there's also an email where they can just reach out. And we do have a volunteer that just helps us with getting information, talking to people. It does have a Christian focus, so that also makes us a little different. So our volunteers, that's part of our requirement. We find that a lot of these ladies tend to reject God after going through a lot of tough stuff. And we don't shove it down their throats, but we want that available to them, to pray over them and to help them in that way too.
freedomhorses.org is where you'll find the information. I'm so glad you've gotten it to this point, and that and I saw Tammy a couple of weeks ago, so it was nice hanging out with her for a weekend as well, as much as I got to see her at Road to the Horse.
Yeah, she was a busy girl.
She was flying by, yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it, Betsy.
Great work.
Thank you, Glenn and Elaine.
All right,
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Well, it's a wonderful organization that Betsy's working with. I wish them all the best, and I'm sure that they will be getting bigger and bigger. Coming up next, we have something completely different, but equally important. We're going to talk to Tracy Noel of Mill Creek Spreaders. She's going to have a little chat with us about manure management, because manure needs to be managed.
Look at you. You're a professional, going from two completely different things, and you made a transition. I'm impressed.
But that's the only kind of transition I can make. Because I can't ride. My ground is all full of manure and mud. So I can only transition on the show. But it's a good transition because it's a good conversation that we're going to have with Tracy. We're going to learn a lot about spreaders. I, for one, would love to have one. And you know what? Would also be kind of confused as to which kind to get. How many horses I have, how much property, how much manure I have to manage. So Tracy will help get us started with that.
I give you an 8 for that transition. Well, hi, Tracy. Welcome back to the Stable Scoop Show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, we've it's been a while since we talked to you over at Mill Creek Spreaders. As a matter of fact, I think it was before the snow started flying. I think it was in the fall.
I think so.
So it's good to have you back on. Of course, now we have to start worrying about manure management again. A lot of people didn't eat, like Helena, didn't even see the manure for three months because they they couldn't find it. So
It was easy to forget about it.
yeah, exactly. Or their manure spreader, if they had one, was buried and they couldn't get to it. So now that everybody's digging out a little bit, I wanted to talk about it again and talk a little bit about manure management and composting and things. You mentioned something about composting and states cracking down on manure management, different states. What? And I know you're not an expert in that area, but I was interesting because I've not heard that. What's going on?
Oh my goodness, yes, absolutely. In our home state of Pennsylvania, where Mill Creek is located in Honeybrook, the Department of Conservation now requires a manure management plan for any livestock operation, which of course includes horses. If you have one horse on your property, you are supposed to file a manure management plan.
Wow.
In writing? Like,
Yeah.
okay, my manure management plan is I'm spreading it in my field, and it's one sentence. Is that good, or do you have to be more clear?
No. You know how the government is. They want their T's crossed and their I's dotted. So there's some forms that you have to fill out. And we have looked them over. I personally have looked them over. And at first it seems rather intimidating. There's fun things like having to draw a little property plan and that sort of thing. But the good news is that there is ample information online about how to complete the forms, complete with samples. And the Department of Conservation, I think probably working with, I forget if it's working with the Cooperative Extension Service, does seminars on how to produce these things. And I know they have people, that are helpful to help you fill them out. It wasn't really as bad as it looks to begin with, especially if you're not like, a 400-cow dairy operation. Those are the folks that they're really targeting.
Well, I was going to say, do they have the poop police out there? You have two horses in the backyard. They're going around, counting poop.
Well,
I want that job. I want to be the
You want to be the poop police?
Give it time. One of the colleges will come up with a degree.
Yes, you'll have a master's in poop.
That's a pretty
policing.
good idea, manure management.
Well, the main focus seems to be they don't want manure anywhere near wet areas, like if it's a creek or your pond or, any kind of environmental, I forget the exact term, but they don't want manure near that. So there's specific feeds that you have to be set back from those features when you're spreading. And then the setback is larger in the winter too, because they're concerned about, runoff.
Is this all part of? Was this all part of the Chesapeake Bay project to clean up the Chesapeake Bay? Because I know that you're kind of I don't know what the term is, a watershed for the Chesapeake Bay, and I know that was a big concern years ago. Everything that went in the streams in Pennsylvania, and then yeah.
But this is statewide, so I mean it's all the way over by Pittsburgh, So it's but that's what we have in Pennsylvania, and then I believe there's some other states. And if not your state, your local jurisdiction might have a whole lot to say about what you're doing with your manure. And it's not just the smells or the ugliness or the fly attracting. It's probably the wet areas that they're worried about, or just the nuisance factor. So we always really encourage people before they purchase a spreader or plan to do any spreading that they check their local regulations. Sometimes it's flat out not allowed, or they will tell you don't have enough land and we're not going to let you spread.
There's some practical reasons I think for these constraints. When building our barn and deciding where to put the manure pile, one of the things we had to consider not only were these buffer zones around anything that was considered an environmental conservation area or anything that was designated a wetland. And this will be true, I think, for most municipalities that have wells that don't have a city septic. You do need to locate your manure pile far enough away from your well so that you obviously don't get E. coli and other kinds of excessive bacteria in your well water. Now, the other thing, though, is some of these wetlands are used as, they do collect. It's groundwater. But I mean, for one or two horses, there has to be some kind of I mean, there's obviously some subjectivity. Who's ever reading these reports has to say, okay, we've got 2 horses and, they're at 95 feet of the buffer zone or whatever. There's got to be some flexibility, don't you think?
I think so, and I think you can appeal. Again, it's the government,
right?
So,
Yeah.
You're on your own. But I was going to mention too that if you are planning to pile your manure, whether for future spreading or just because you don't have a spreader, there's always regulations about that too. For example, they probably want you to have some kind of concrete pad. It might need to be covered. It may need to be enclosed otherwise. And that holds true if you're doing composting too. Same kind of thing. It needs to be on concrete, or it has to be specifically contained because they're concerned about runoff from it, which can be very unpleasant. Anybody who's ever stepped in a nasty puddle in a barn can tell you that. So, and
I don't know if they do this anymore, but 20 years ago when we had our big farm there in Pennsylvania, across the street, the guy, we had septic systems, so they used to come out and pump the septic system, right, into the truck. Mm-hmm. Well, the neighbor across the street had a septic system pumped, and then they went out and spread it right on the fields. And we were in total shock. We didn't know that was done. But apparently in many states, it's legal. And it's like, are you kidding me?
Goodness.
I know.
No, I'll tell you, I'd rather have horse poop on my food than on
I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that. But yet the chicken house behind us, they used to give all kinds of trouble to the chicken house behind us. They're just spreading raw manure, human waste across the street. But anyway, I know.
I would not think that was allowed.
I know. I was shocked. We were absolutely shocked. And I think Jennifer called the state and found out, yep, it's illegal in certain places and blah, blah, blah. Now, they probably changed that since then. But, yeah, that was one of the most shocking things I'd ever seen. Let me ask you this. So now you mentioned to me that that you guys have been really, really busy. So obviously somebody's spreading manure around this country.
Definitely, yes. We have been busy, and we are very excited about that. Obviously, our new stainless steel spreaders have gotten more and more popular. Once people found out that they can have a manure spreader that was guaranteed for life against rust through, there's been a lot of interest in those.
Yeah, no kidding.
They're really pretty. If you want a nice-looking manure spreader, our SS spreaders are gorgeous. So that was not our intent when we designed them, but it did turn out to be that way. It's kind of funny. So I did want to mention, too, that we're very excited because there is a TV show on PBS called Growing a Greener World that is in its 6th season, and it features organic gardening and green living and farm-table cooking, that kind of thing. And Growing a Greener World got a hold of us, the television host of the show did, because he had heard that we made the best equipment. And one of our SS spreaders is now going to be featured on the show.
Huh.
So we're pretty excited about that. We just shipped it to them, so it'll be seen several times in this season.
What are they?
Home farm.
And what are they spreading? Are they spreading the compost?
No, yes, I believe it's compost, and he has on his home farm in Georgia. The show travels around, but in his home farm he has horses, and pigs and cows, I believe, and goats. I forget exactly, but he's going to be using our spreader on his garden, in his gardening area in his field. So
he has a bigger garden than I do. It would take you exactly 3 turns of the little thing in the back to spread it on my garden. You would be done.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd go 10 feet. And you'd be, yeah, I could do it with a shovel easier probably. But now, that brings up another question: is what do people use spreaders for other than like horse manure? Are they using them for compost and larger operations, things like that?
Absolutely, yes. And
I never thought about that.
Who buy usually our larger spreaders for cattle operation.
Right.
And that is, those are more popular with then there's horse barns with 50 horses that buy the big ones too. But yes, we have people buy them to use for sheep, llama, cows, alpacas, what you have you. And yeah, we do get asked about that, and we say, sure, go right ahead. The cow manure is probably a little more difficult, and we do recommend buying a spreader with an upper beater for that, especially if it's gotten compacted. But
If-
other than that,
if
yeah,
if
you're
if
pretty
you've
much
if you've never cleaned a stall that or a barn that's had cow manure in it, you think horses are bad. The cow patties
yeah.
are the worst.
Because they're so
Oh.
mushy.
Yeah, they're mushy, and what they do is they get packed down. So it's like you need a chisel and a jackhammer to get it out, and then it's all sloppy. It's just gross. It
One of my
stinks.
horses is like that,
Oh,
actually.
it just stinks. It's
He's always got
awful.
mushy food. I'm like, I should have had a cow.
Well, and then they tend,
No,
what the cow people too, they tend to let them go for a long time. So they bring in the front end loaders, and they got about 3 feet of that stuff, and they're using the front end loader to dump it in the spreader. So what she was basically saying is you need one tough spreader to spread that stuff.
you need a very tough spreader, and that market has been really strong for the SS spreaders. People are astounded at how well they're handling the compacted cow manure. So, yep, that's something to think about for sure.
Yeah, because the compacted cow manure too is very wet, and when it gets in there, it gets into nooks and crannies, and does cause rusting much quicker. I don't know what it is about cows, but they seem to be more acidic, in my opinion, and it does rust through quicker. So I can see the stainless steel spreaders being real popular for that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep, because people are very excited about those. So, but we also have a really neat thing that we launched a brand new website about a month ago, and our website is now going to give people all kinds of guidance on what kind of spreaders that they need for their operation, whether it's size, options, all of that. It's all on there now. We have customer reviews, both written and video, whatever you want to look at. Those are on the website. The complete technical specs, everything you'd expect to find, all, pictures of every kind of spreader that we make in configurations, and, some info about the company. But where we find people really tend to get stumped is when they're choosing their options, whether it's, the PTO versus the ground drive. That's a big one. Nobody's sure. And then you guys know what a fines pan is?
Oh, who?
Yeah, right. That answers your question.
Apparently not.
That's an option. Yeah, I didn't know that's an option. Believe me, it's an option on the spreaders, and that's really useful if you're spreading compost or any kind of smaller material, like if your stall bedding is pelletized. The little fines pan on the back is a great thing for that. So we have information, and we're actually making some more videos specifically just about the options. So that information is there. We have our size comparison infographic, which makes it real easy to see how much they all hold and what you can pull them with. And then most exciting of all for us is we now have online ordering with free shipping. So
what?
If you have designed your dream spreader.
Oh, my UPS guy's going to love that.
Your UPS guy. No, they're actually delivered by tractor trailers.
Oh, okay.
You can order your spreader right online, and we will ship it to you. And it's all included in the price, so no worry about that.
I can see him pulling up now with his truck, backing up, and pushing the manure spreader out the back. I can see him being really happy about that.
Well, we ship them actually with the wheels off, but the assembly is pretty simple. In fact, probably hooking up your DVD player is probably more difficult. So we.
Okay, so it's better than IKEA furniture. It's easier to assemble than an IKEA furniture. That is what you're saying.
Exactly. There you go. That should.
Okay.
I like that.
All right,
I
good.
can barely do that. I can do that if I have a drink nearby.
Yeah, well, that's the way. I think the
So if I
IKEA
can
guys
set
did
up
that
a
on
spreader.
purpose. That's funny. Well, this is great.
We're pretty excited about that, and the response has been great. We've had quite a few of them ordered already in the first 20 days since we launched the website. So it seems to be a good thing. So
Mill
we're
Creek
always
Spread.
happy to answer. Yes.
MillCreekSpreaders.com is where you'll find it. Go to the frequently asked questions section. There's a lot of good questions and answers on there. And, of course, you'll see our friend Julie Goodnight all over the place. She uses a Mill Creek spreader, and you'll see a video of her there. She's been using that for a long time. And I'm sure a lot of you have too. You might have an older Mill Creek spreader that's time now to get a replacement. Go to millcreekspreaders.com. They also do have, if you don't want to have one shipped, there are a bunch of dealers across the country. Just put in your zip code and you can find a dealer located closest to you as well. And I've seen them at a couple shows now. Now, of course, that you got guys are with us here, I see them everywhere because you're looking for them.
Right.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once you get a little information about something, they start popping up everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. MillcreekSpreaders.com. Thank you so much for joining us. Tracy has one of the best, friendliest, beautiful names in the world, Tracy Noel. It just has to be the most beautiful name ever.
Oh, well, thank you.
Just always thinking of happy Christmas time when you say Tracy Noel. You're just always thinking that.
Well, yep. My daughter was born January 1st, but if she came on Christmas, you were going to name her Mary.
Aw.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, coming up next, we have our Tack and Habit segment for the week.
This Tack and Habit segment is sponsored by Flirting with the World. Flirting with the World is online at flirtingwiththeworld.com.
And for this week, we have our part 3 in our Worming 101 series that we did with Bimeda Deworming. So let's take a listen to that. Well, I'm back here with Dr. Ellefson, and we are talking about deworming. He is the Director of Technical Services at Bimeda Incorporated. Dr. Ellefson, today we're going to talk about fecal testing and some of the lesser-known equine parasites. We touched on fecal testing last month, and I want to get into more detail about that this month. So fecal testing is really a multi-part process, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. And, as helpful as fecal testing is, and it really is helpful in telling us about most of the major parasites, it's not going to tell us about all of them. For instance, if a horse has bots, which is nothing more than an intermediate form of a fly, which does not lay an egg, so you're not going to see anything in a fecal test that would indicate those. Pinworms, on the other hand, deposit their eggs on the skin of the horse near the tail. So we're not going to pick up pinworm eggs on a fecal test, and of course, tapeworm eggs are very difficult to pick up on fecal testing. Less than 3% are going to be picked up in a fecal test. So there are still some parasites we need to be concerned about, even if our parasite profile, if you will, looks okay from our fecal test.
And I know summer sores is one, too, because we have a horse right here and have a big problem with that in Florida. It's something we see all the time is summer sores. Explain the summer sore. Other than I think they're just gross, but you can explain.
Well, they really are. A lot of granulation tissue usually. And what causes that is that's two different lesser-known worms called Drossia and Habernema, which are stomach worms, and their eggs will hatch, and the larvae will be spread by flies that are feeding on a sore. Typically, those flies are going to feed around the mouth and nostrils of the horse, and that's how the life cycle is completed. But occasionally, if those flies are feeding on a fresh cut or on a sore, the larvae will be left off, if you will, or deposited, and then they'll crawl into that sore. And now we've got live larvae living in that sore, and that's why it has a tendency to not want to heal, and we get a lot of granulation tissue. So, and ivermectin is actually it has the superior label claim for treating summer sores. It's very effective in killing those larvae.
I was going to ask you that. So ivermectin is the one for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So a product like ivermectin or Equimax would be very helpful, both for bots and for summer sores.
Now, as far getting back to the fecal testing, so you do the fecal test. Does that, when that comes back, will that tell me what dewormer I should be using? Because we've already talked about the different classes of dewormers. Will it actually tell me, or will my vet tell me that, okay, you've got this problem, this problem, this problem, and this is what you should use, and you should use it this often or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, the fecal test is going to give you a place to start. But, as we've discussed previously, with resistance issues that are out there, and, an important thing for your listeners to remember is that resistance against dewormers by parasites is not a regional situation. It's not a geographic situation. It's usually a farm or ranch situation based on what products have been used previously on that place. And like we talked about before, we can do fecal egg count reduction testing at the time that we deworm and then repeat it 2 weeks later, and look for that 90% reduction in parasite load. And if we see that, then we're okay. We can continue using that active product. If we don't see 90% or greater reduction, then we need to switch to a different active ingredient group.
Do we ever get to 100%?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, for instance, Equimax has a label claim for 100% control of tapeworms in horses. So, yes, there are some of the parasites that we are 100% effective against.
Okay. That's terrific to know. And, of course, you can find out about all the different products that Bimeda has, and you go to their website, bimedaequine.com. That's BIMEDA, equine.com. Equimax, Bimectin, Exodus Multidose, Equil, just a whole bunch of different ones on there. And the nice part about this website is you can go on there and you can find out what all of them are for. There's also a ton of information on deworming plans, fecal testing, a lot more about fecal testing than we had time to talk about today, resistance, and then all the different kinds of parasites that you can find as well, some of which we just touched on. So go to bimedaequine.com and be sure to check out the Did You Know by Dr. Dave section, because Dr. Dave here answers all kinds of questions on that subject, a little more detail than we can get into here. That's at bimedaequine.com. Well, worming is something that we all think about this time of year coming into the spring, and all the you can actually see the fields and the poop, and worming becomes an issue that we all have to deal with and comes to the front of our minds. So I'm glad that they agreed to do this series with us. Well, we are going to wrap up the show today. Next week, for all of the fans out there of your fox hunting segments, we're going to talk fox hunting, aren't we?
We are going to talk fox hunting. In particular, we're going to talk to fox hunters who've flown the coop.
They flew the coop?
They flew the coop. They flew the northern coop from points south.
So where there actually is some ground they can fox hunt on that's not snow-covered and ice-covered?
Yeah, can you tell what's at the front of my mind lately? Yes, we are going to be talking to some fox hunters who've left colder climates and have moved south, and we're going to hear what the transition was like and what life is like in what I call a happier place.
Very good. That'll be coming up next week. For all of you that miss the fox hunting segments, we'll have one for you. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to do part 2. It's been years actually since we did part 1. Our most popular episode we've ever done on Stable Scoop was the episode we did about Lyme disease in people. And we're going to do a follow-up show, Lyme Disease in People Part 2, where we take a look at where we've come in the years since we did that episode. Has anything improved? And as far as the medical community is concerned, we're also going to talk to a couple of our listeners who have fought the battle with Lyme disease and see where they're at and what kind of hoops they've had to go through. And then I'll just kind of give everybody a little bit of an update on where I'm at as well with my constant battle with it. So all of that will be happening over the next couple of weeks. We look forward to having you here with us. Helena can be found at
Helena at horseradionetwork.com, or you can find me at flirtingwiththeworld.com.
You can find all of our past shows, all 7 years worth, at stablescoop.com. And you can also find the links to today's guests and all of that there as well. We thank our sponsors. This week, we had Uncle Jimmy's Brand Products, Bimeda Dewormers, Mill Creek Spreaders, and Flirting with the World. Be sure to visit all the other great shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com or at the free app. Search for Horse Radio Network. Well, Helena, that's it for this week.
That was plenty and always fun. There will be more next week. Until then, happy scooping.